Hello common people, this is a Common Guy Reviews and I am your lovely host Pepsi. The oldies are coming back, this time in slightly slimier form. Usually I don't talk about actors, but this time I had to dive into the trivia that was rather interesting. The Blob is a 1958 American indie science fiction horror film directed by Irvin Yawort and written by Kay Lineker and Theodore Simonson. This movie stars a man named Steve McQueen in his first leading role. Steve McQueen was an American actor and race car driver who rose to the popularity from his anti-hero persona. This was emphasized during the height of counterculture in the 1960s and gave him a nickname, the King of Cool. Before Dirty Harry, before Clint Eastwood as a man with no name, McQueen stayed cool. He acted in several popular movies like The Sandpebbles, Babylon and The Great Escape. In 1974, McQueen was the highest paid actor in the world, and even though he took a break from acting every now and then, longest time being 4 years, his popularity assured that he could get the highest salaries there is. It is such an interesting thing to see that even in the 50s, indie movies gave birth to one of the most popular actors in the time. It just shows that the indie movies have always have the great potential. But we go back to the movie itself now. The Blob is a slime. It's all about the slime, all-devouring monster that came to the earth with a comet. Movie starts with couple kissing, a nice common thing old movies seem to have, teenager making out somewhere. Teenager Steve Andrews played by Steve McQueen and his girlfriend Jane Martin played as Annette Corsaut see a comet crashing down somewhere, and Steve wants to go and look what's all that about. They try to find it but no avail. Instead they find an old-timer, who clearly is in pain. Steve sees that his hand is covered in some sort of mucus, and they take him to the hospital. Or some kind of apartment, I don't think it's an hospital, maybe it's some kind of home healing room that the doctor may have, I don't know. There's Dr. Henry Martin takes him to his care, and soon realizes that the blob is actually growing, as it eats the man away. Steve and Jane witness the doctor getting devoured behind his own window and alert the police. Of course they don't believe them about this, but Steve is known for his honesty, so they investigate it anyway. Nothing is to be found. No doctor, no any monsters, nothing. A while earlier Steve met a group of hot-headed teenagers, who first seemed like bullies, but came back as kinda wholesome group, who believed Steve and what he is saying. Together they alarm the city. Monster is loose, and so everyone is gathered to the streets. They all start to believe once this monster attacks the theater full of people. Steve and Jane are surrounded by slime. They retreat into the restaurant van and their end seems to be near. Right then they figure it out, that the slime monster doesn't like cold, so they blast it with the fire extinguisher and rush to say this to the others. Soon people all over come with their fire extinguishers and they manage to freeze the monster on its tracks. Relieved and safe for now, they look at the monster and say that they will fly to the Antarctic, that the monster is not dead and it cannot be killed. As long as the Antarctic stays cold, the monster stays put. And that is the whole movie basically. I really like this movie. The monster was so unusual. At these times people were scared of huge insects and monsters, but a giant monster slime that devoured people and grew larger more it eats? Now that's epic. This movie also has a remake in 1988 and what I've seen clips of it is a must watch, because even though it flopped in the box office, the practical effects and puppets on that movie seem pristine. The 1958 version just oozes that timeline. It is still full of horror and common disbelief from adults that don't really trust what those pesky teenagers are telling them. Overall panic and chaos was nice, and the slime monster was menacing, even without proper form. Also the ending, where they ominously say that it's not dead and stays put until it warms up. Nice work. I really recommend you to take a look. It is an old movie, so it can be found free to watch in the internet. I will now start my hunt for the 1988 version if I can find it, and that concludes this review. This was my take on 1958 Blob, and this was a Common Guy Reviews and I, as your lovely host Pepsi, and I'll see you in the next review. Goodbye.